Why, hello everyone. It's episode 25 of It's a Wonderful Podcast. Nolan is with me as he always is, although not as he always is. Wouldn't you say so?
Well, I mean, episode 25, that's got to be a milestone, and what a milestone this is, because we are live reporting from Morgan's Batcave down in Manchester.
We're in the same room, which is unusual.
Yeah, and you see me now, like, this is how I act, like, in my own flat.
This is, It's unusual to be in the same room, but it's nice, and it should make for a bit of a smoother show, because sometimes the shows are like, well, I talk, and then you talk, and then I talk, and then wait a bit, and then you talk, and then it's just like, okay, well, this might actually be more of a conversation now, because we can look at each other, not just on a screen, and actually be able to read facial expressions.
And we also do not have to worry about the usual thing happening, which we're not sponsored by Google Hangouts, so I can say this.
No,
seriously,
it's a waste of space.
Sort your bloody connections out.
Wait, I've decided that Skype is a much better format because you can actually record off Skype as well.
Really, because like I've tried to use Skype so many times and it's really frustrating. But anyway, I'm actually down in Manchester on vacation visiting Morgan. I got off the bus station after a very long journey where a bunch of random teenagers were all playing music
loudly.
Yes, of course.
Not just headphones.
Oh, not just headphones.
Oh, that's bad.
And if they were
you don't need that on a long-haul bus. That should not be allowed on a long-haul bus.
Yeah, and I just spent my entire bus journey watching Nevermind the Buzzcocks.
It's a perfectly valid thing to do on no podcast. No podcasts for the journey.
I did re-listen to some of our old podcast guests, things like on the Monday show, because I do enjoy us having banter with Raoul and Troy.
Well, of course. I like how you listen to us more than just any other podcast.
Well, like, they're like an hour long, so they kill time on a bus.
They are, but it's like you could listen to any podcast and you choose, let's listen to one with us on it.
Yeah.
That's just nice. Mm-hmm. I like that. Anyway, this is episode 25, and we do talk about movies to a certain extent on this show. Usually,
think of a reference for this one.
Yeah, usually we go off on some sort of nonsense, but this week's movie, we're starting to get nice and Halloweeny, aren't we?
Oh yes, that's what you have to do in the month of February.
It's the month of February. Probably come out in February, knowing this show. Yeah, we are starting to get Halloweeny. We have decided this week to talk about 1961's The Innocents, which is an adaptation of Henry James's The Turn of the Screw, for those literarily inclined.
So pretty much just me.
So pretty much, no, not necessarily just you. You know me, I like a nice short ghost story, even though Turn of the Screw is more like a novella. But, this is we watched the movie actually together at the same time, which is something I don't think we've done for the show
ever.
At all.
Well, doing a hangout and then watching a movie together would be frustrating. Like, oh, you got to play it at this exact time. You got to pause it when I'm going to get a cup of tea. You got to do all this stuff. So it's better to watch it together, and especially we can take advantage of that. Now, please tell me that was not a glass that just fell.
That was a glass that just fell. I don't know why the glass just fell. It is isn't it fun when glasses fall over and you have to clean them up?
It's not exactly fun, but it does, if you're having one of those days where you're just, like, going about it and just relaxing, and then a glass smashes.
It's not smashed.
Well, it's not smashed, but it fell over, and I think that's actually something that could happen in a movie like this.
What, a glass falls over and smashes, and Deborah Kerr just decides to scream.
Is that her name, Deborah Kerr?
Deborah Kerr.
That gives me, like,
is the actress's name.
Because one of my teachers was called Miss Kerr.
Was she called Miss Deborah Kerr?
No, I believe it was Miss Emma Jane Kerr.
It doesn't have the same ring to it as Deborah Kerr.
No, but she was Irish, so it made up for it.
Being Irish makes up for things?
Well, yes, I do. And well, it's fun being in a Spanish class listening to an Irish accent.
Do you know what? I had teachers like that. I had a Spanish-French teacher at one point.
Was the teacher Spanish or French?
No, the teacher was Spanish.
Teaching French.
Teaching French.
That must have been a very flamboyant class.
I don't understand.
You know what? I understand.
I don't get it.
We've done it again.
What?
We've gone off on a tangent about
Yeah,
teachers.
but it's nice though.
I know.
Spanish. I had a Spanish-French teacher. I had an Italian woodwork teacher at one point.
We did not learn woodwork at my
He
school.
was an interesting man. He was very, very Italian.
I can imagine.
His name was Giuseppe.
Giuseppe.
His name was Giuseppe.
If Giuseppe is listening to this, there you go. You got your shout out.
I would very much love him to be. I apologise for any wind sounds you may hear during this episode. It's incredibly windy in this part of the world today. Hopefully the mics won't pick it up. Hopefully the mics are reasonable enough that they won't pick it up too much.
I mean, if they do, it is going to add like a little bit of an ambience.
If they do, it may very much add a bit of an ambience, because The Innocents is a very atmospheric film.
Yeah, that was.
It's a very intense film.
Definitely one of the things that I noticed about it first was there's moments in it where I think, oh god, please don't do a jump scare. You might have heard me even whispering like, no jump scares,
Yeah.
no jump scares. And then it lingers on that shot, and it's
Never does do
eerie.
Never does do a jump scare.
Thank
Doesn't
God.
need to.
No,
Has
it's
absolutely
actually
no
better
need
without
to.
it.
Starts with that creepy song.
Oh god.
Right before you get to the Fox logo. For like half a minute.
The black and white Fox logo was something else.
Well, I mean,
Never seen that before.
I'm trying to
Unless
think
I'm,
of
making
other.
a cup of tea before the movie starts.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I've seen Fox movies in black and white. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
If one of them's directed by Theresa May, then we should probably not.
I would.
a Fox movie.
Oh, a Fox movie. Ah, I see. I get the joke. Fox hunting and all that business. Fair enough. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
It's so hard to focus right now because Elvis is fucking staring at me.
There is a picture of Elvis Presley that will be staring at Nolan throughout the entire of the recording. He will have to just deal with it.
I'm not going to ask you to take your artwork down because you've done a pretty good job of this back.
I like to think I have.
Do you call it the Bat Cave, or is that just what I'm calling it?
It's just what you're calling it.
It's pretty much a Bat Cave.
I mean, there's no bats in it.
Well, hopefully not.
There aren't.
I mean,
any,
I did hear some stuff last night.
There aren't any. That would be the wind. There aren't any bats, and there isn't. Well, there is actually a picture of Batman on the wall over there.
On the Justice League thing.
On a Justice League canvas thing that I own, but we're not here to talk about interior decoration.
No, you can. There's so many shows you can watch on Channel 4 for that.
We're here to talk about The Innocents, and like I said, it's a very, very intense, very, very atmospheric film. It's sisters with The Haunting.
I
feel,
can definitely see that.
But I think The Haunting turns it's the way The Haunting's shot. I think they're both shot very differently, because The Haunting's very just like, oh, let's give them all these tilted angles and make the house look really weird and all that. This almost is The Innocents almost sort of feels like it's gliding along.
Phrase. Yeah.
And because they're both obviously ghost stories, but The Innocents to me felt very much like it took its time, but the pacing was perfect. All the little hints and beats were exactly where you wanted them to be, but it glided, as opposed to The Hauntings just like, let's weird you out with all these shots and make the house feel very alive. In this one, the house didn't necessarily feel alive, but it was very much the performances.
Definitely.
As opposed to The Haunting, which I think the performances are fine, but they aren't the standout of that one.
Well, this one, I spoke about it, while we were watching the movie. The pacing in this is genius.
Yeah.
And it's an hour and 40 minutes long, which to me is a perfect runtime for a movie. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's not underdeveloped. The pacing of it felt slow, but I wasn't bored for a second. There's always something going on in every scene, whether it's like dialogue or the kids being creepy, which we will get to those creepy fucking kids.
I mean, there's always enough creep factor, I think, in any scene of this particular movie, particularly from the two children, Flora and Miles, especially Miles.
Ugh.
I don't know what sort of impressive. It's very impressive, the performances these children give, because they come off so creepy.
Good child actors.
Miles felt like, in fact, he might have actually been in the 1960 Village of the Damned.
Yeah, you mentioned this.
Because he felt like one of those kids so much. Now that I'm thinking about it, he may have actually played the lead kid in Village of the Damned. I'm going to check that. I'm going to check that right now.
We are doing fact-checking live right now.
Because he seemed so similar. I'm thinking about it now, he's even got a similar face. So it might actually be him.
I've noticed all creepy kids, especially creepy boy kids, are usually small, petite, thin-framed, and have that fucking Beatles haircut.
Yeah, I mean, he's like let's just see. He is in Village of the Damned.
Is he the lead kid?
He is the lead kid in Village of the Damned.
Okay, well, this would be a great follow-up for Village of the Damned then. Well, not really follow-up, like a double feature kind of thing.
Yeah, watch. I mean, they're two quite different movies as well. Village of the Damned, very much a... It's got the, Village of the Damned has the Cold War radiation sort of hints. Because that's why all the children get born at the same time and turn out to be creepy.
What you're saying is I should watch Village of the Damned.
What I'm saying is you should watch Village of the Damned. And if you want to, also watch John Carpenter's Village of the Damned from, 95. Which is also, 90s John Carpenter. You can go either way on it.
It's good to watch anything John Carpenter.
Maybe not Escape from LA.
Probably not.
Maybe not anything John Carpenter. Even though we all love John Carpenter, rightly so. But yeah, if you want creepy kid, if you want a nice early 60s creepy kid double feature starring the same creepy kid, watch Village of the Damned and The Innocents. Two very different movies. The Innocents of which I think is actually the better film.
I could see where you'd think that, yeah, because from what I've heard about Village of the Damned, it's kind of just like a simple thriller, from how I've heard it described.
Village of the Damned is a creepy movie. It is. I mean, this is quite a simple movie, but Village of the Damned is definitely nowhere near as intense feeling and atmospheric. Like, there was parts of this, like we're sat in the same room watching this movie, and we're not speaking to each other for half an hour.
Oh yeah.
Just because we're just watching and just like, yeah, I can't really take my eyes off this right now. I feel like that wouldn't be the case in Village of the Damned. Village of the Damned, you'd just be able to have a nice conversation over the top of and still get exactly what was going on.
Village of the Damned to me seems more like kind of more Twilight Zone-y than this one.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I'm sure the Twilight Zone probably did something to do with kids being doing that. I'm not as familiar with the Twilight Zone as I would like to be. But The Innocents is a fantastic ghost story above anything else.
Something that I noticed, and I really love... I almost laughed at it, but I kind of loved it. This is based off a short story, right?
It is.
The way they talk almost sounds like how an author would describe things.
Yeah. I mean, the story, The Turn of the Screw, was in the late 1890s. So it's, right smack bang at the end of the Victorian era.
Yeah,
so they talk, okay, it's set in that time, so, they talk like you would expect people from the late 1890s to talk. especially because they live in a big fancy house. What
Yeah.
is essentially a castle.
There's even that moment that I'm not gonna forget where they talk about like this dead uncle or what are these dead people that used to stay there, and they remember how they died, and the older lady just goes like, "It was a cold winter's night," and I felt like I was reading the opening of a novel.
It was winter, a cold night, the blackest night, the blackest eyes. Sorry, I'm getting excited for Halloween. Hello, Donald Pleasance. Yeah, she does. She very much sort of describes it like an author would describe it. And the two people, or the two, like, I don't know, should we say spirits in The Innocents, they're of the former governess of the house, and Deborah Kerr plays the new governess.
I'm getting shudders just thinking about them.
And the other guy is a valet, like a driver of the of the father who isn't there. I think the father died.
Of course,
But
the father died.
The house is very much haunted by these two people. In not only in terms of these are spirits that rise up and go and walk around the house, because there's a bit of that, but there's not overly like amount of that. It's very much more of a mental horror, mental haunting.
Yeah, because it does keep you guessing.
Mrs.
At the very end.
Mrs. Gross, the housekeeper, is just disturbed by all that's gone on in the past. She doesn't want to talk about any of it. And the children, the two children, are almost possessed by it.
I mean, you see right away there's something off about these kids, even from the way they talk. And I brought this up in the beginning, like, you are not talking like a child does.
No.
They have that sort of innocence behind them, but the way they say stuff, it gives it sort of an unsettling factor. And there's something that I noticed, like, kind of the theme of this whole movie, really. It does almost feel very coming of age. It's like,
Okay, explain that. Elaborate on that.
I was, because you know how I reacted after the movie was over, so I went and like looked up some like analysis of the themes and stuff before when you went to go get drinks.
Yeah.
And what I found interesting was that they mentioned it's almost sort of like sexual repression, because this main governess apparently
Okay.
has that, and you see that she acts kind of childlike, and she's sort of
Yeah.
sheltering these kids, but then they realize at the end you have to kind of face your fears. You know, you can't wake up a child from a bad dream, because that could even make it worse. But it's kind of like facing adulthood and
Okay.
letting go of that. And
It is, yeah, it is definitely like a case of facing the truth,
yeah,
almost, which is a very coming of age type idea. I think I like that angle. I like the idea of this sexual repression thing, because there's those very weird scenes between Miles and Deborah Kerr.
oh, those are this thing has fucking ghosts in it, and those were the scenes that creeped me out the most.
Yeah, it's very, very strange.
Like, Miles will just be like, he'll be wandering around, be like, "Oh my dear, will you come give me a kiss goodnight?" And I'm like, Miles, stop it.
No, Miles. No, Deborah Kerr, don't go to Miles.
No.
But in terms of the story, you can put that down to the what's his name? Peter Quint is the valet's, the ghost or the spirit valet's
Is
name.
it just a rule now that guys named Quint in a story are going to be dicks?
There's nothing wrong with Quint in Jaws. Lovely man, Robert Shaw, local hero.
I'm sure Robert Shaw's a lovely man. Quint is an asshole.
Yeah, is he though?
I
He does what he
they're
needs
all-
to do.
I mean, they're all kind of assholes in Jaws.
He does what he needs to do. But no, I think in terms of Miles's sort of these undertones of this weird sexuality that he has come from his supposed position. This wind is really picking up.
I mean, we are in a literal cabin.
Some, we are. Some it comes from Peter Quint, because as Mrs. Gross tells us at some point, Peter Quint was quite a powerful man.
Oh yeah, asserted
He
himself.
had a lot of power, and he beat Mrs. Jessel, who was the former governess, who they were in some sort of relationship. And
toxic relationship by the sounds of it.
A very toxic relationship, because apparently Mrs. Jessel would just keep crawling back to him, even when she was on the floor, having been struck.
It's like
Grammar.
Syndrome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, not
not exactly Stockholm. But it's that awful thing you hear, and you hear way too much of going back to people that abuse you in a relationship, and of course this goes both ways.
Miles
but it's
Flora.
Miles to his sister Flora.
Well, when she's crying and like he's saying,
yeah,
doing
that's
it for attention.
That's true. I forgot about that. He does do that. Yeah.
And they're like really close, and she just completely loves him and idolizes him, kind of like how the ghosts would have.
I didn't even think about that. That's a great point. There's just there are so many of these little things that just that almost mirror this very, because you don't get a lot of the relationship between Mrs. Jessel and Peter Quint. You only get what limited things Mrs. Gross says about them. I don't know who played Mrs. Gross, but she was great too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's what? Really, there's 4 people in this cast. Really?
And I love that I thought they were going to do certain plot points, but they shied away from them. Like,
what was those?
Well, when she brought up the whole, you see the ghost, and she scares Flora a bit, I thought this was going to be, well, you need to leave now, go away, and then out of some obligation, she comes back to the house, and then there's a big showdown, because, you see that in a lot of movies nowadays.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they strayed away from that, and you can just sort of see the terror on Mrs. Gross's face.
Yeah. Because Mrs. Gross knows. Mrs. Gross is fully aware, she just doesn't want to admit it.
Yeah, you don't want to admit that there's harsh realities in the world, another coming-of-age theme.
Yeah, again, I like this angle.
Their innocence.
You want to keep you want to keep the innocence. What a lovely, I love this coming-of-age angle that you've found on this.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even think about that. I was very much looking at this as a pure creep factor ghost story with very impressive performances, particularly Deborah Kerr. I know Deborah Kerr says that this was her best, according to her.
Did she get any awards for this?
Not for this, I think. No, because, I mean, this is a British film.
Yeah, of course, and, according to Hollywood, those don't exist.
Well, this is a British film. It was nominated for 2 BAFTAs, and that's as high as it went.
This film definitely deserves more than that.
I mean, maybe it's because it was a horror film.
Quite possibly, yes.
No, the Academy has never liked a nice creepy film.
This is very scary. Why would I want to nominate this? That's what I can imagine the Academy is like.
Today,
of all time.
Hello. They still talk like that today.
Oh yeah.
But no, I was looking at it as purely sort of like a ghost story, and a very, very well paced, very well thought out one. But you've gone and brought in this coming of age point that I just think is great. Yeah. Because thinking about it, there is so much of that. Especially, obviously, from the children's point of view, and their...
Because I usually do this with stories. I break them down to what is a story about, and then you can sum it up in one sentence. This, to me, is kind of about facing the reality of trauma, really, and trying to move past it. And there is even a kind of a tragic element to this.
Definitely. I mean, it doesn't end pleasantly.
No. I suppose we can talk about that now.
Of course we can. That's what we always do.
She forced Remind me what the character's name was.
I'm just keep saying Deborah Kerr.
Deborah Kerr. Yeah, she's trying to get Miles to sort of accept it, and he does, and that kind of results in the loss of his innocence, but also the preservation of his innocence.
And also the loss of his life.
And the loss of his life, but...
I don't know how necessarily he manages to die.
Maybe...
He
did look up to that guy a lot, so maybe he used that as kind of a life force on him, and he was draining him and stuff like that. Kind of like how trauma can drain you.
Yeah, I was definitely putting it down, so I was definitely putting it down to a case of... Because obviously that scene is particularly intense. You see the spirit of Peter Quint up on this gravestone,
constantly shifting between statue and him.
Yeah, that one spinning shot of just like gothic statue, spirit of Peter Quint, and then statue. It is very much like the Weeping Angels. But yeah, Miles he's hysterical at this point. And
it made me feel sympathy for him, because
definitely
until then, I thought this kid was a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously you understand why. In this scene, you fully understand why, and he's very, very damaged by Peter Quint because he used to look up to him so much, and we learned that from Mrs. Gross.
And you can tell that by the way he acts, and I think some people will say this is not how kids talk, but
never mind.
Who talk like that.
I used to talk like that as a child.
I believe that.
I used to say, I mean, maybe not that sort of...
To your babysitter.
Maybe...
My dear, welcome to my home.
Hello, my dear. How are you doing today? It's not really how you expect 11-year-olds to talk, but...
11-year-olds are smarter than you think.
Oh, definitely.
That's always what I go for especially when I'm writing kids of that age.
Yeah.
If you treat them like they're stupid, the last thing kids want to be reminded of when they're reading a story about them is that they're kids.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, you wouldn't want to. If you were a child reading a story, I remember I used to read books all the time as a child. I mean, I still read now, but I don't read like children's. I don't read books for children anymore.
No, that's just what I do.
But obviously, I mean, I wouldn't like it if I was just reading something where, like, the parents won, for example.
I mean, yeah.
That's not fun as a child.
Something that a writing agent told me is think about the Goonies, and then think about the Goonies if the parents had tagged along.
If the parents had tagged along in the Goonies, it would not be any... It would be terrible. It would be terrible. It would be pointless. It's not an adventure if the parents tag along.
And they even get around that by making the main character, Miss Deborah Kerr, they make her somewhat childlike. Like, she still talks about her dad and how he used to... I don't know if her dad was an abusive person or not. It kind of hints at that.
Yeah.
Like, we would never disturb him, things like this.
I mean, nothing's explicitly said on that point.
Which is way better than them flat out saying it.
Yeah, but obviously Deborah Kerr's got a bit of... she's got a bit of problems herself. It's probably why she took the job in the middle, in this big country house, to get away from certain things and just to focus on teaching, these nice new children.
It's almost a way of dealing with her own trauma. If she can help someone else through theirs, that's why she's so persistent about it.
Yeah, I would think it is. And of course, sadly, for Deborah Kerr's character, Mrs. Gillis.
Something like that.
Gillis, I want to say. There's definitely a Jill in there. Almost as soon as she arrives, she's like, oh God, there's something going on here, isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
There's some weirdness going on here. Who was that man that was stood up on this tower, Miles? Well, I don't know. I didn't see anyone. Yes, you did, Miles. Yes, you did. Stop lying. Stop lying. Everybody lies in this movie.
You know the first thing I thought when I saw him on the roof?
What?
Having pigeons on your head, that is not hygienic, Miles. You're going to need several baths after that.
Miles probably would not mind having a bath.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Christ.
Knowing Miles.
Oh.
You see, you've brought that up now.
Oh, God. Get this out of my head.
Okay, let's not talk about that. Pigeon. I thought it was quite funny when he turns up with a pigeon on his head.
He looks like the guys that I serve drinks to at the race
He's
course.
also-
They literally wear pigeons on their heads.
Dead pigeons, presumably. Obviously,
Oh,
he
yes.
keeps a dead pigeon under his pillow
And with a snapped neck.
with a
and-
snapped neck. That's weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, you see that kind of thing a lot in kid horror films.
You do. They like the. Again, though, you could look at that as holding on to the past.
Well, yeah, even the pigeon's pure white. That can represent
Pigeon is
innocence.
pure white.
And I don't know if you noticed this, but Deborah Kerr wears a lot of white in the beginning of this film, and then towards the end, when it's getting darker, she's
Turns
wearing
very,
full
very black.
almost like the haunting of the house is kind of getting into
Yep,
her as well.
I thought that exactly.
Nice little bit.
Be
of
honest,
colour
there's
there.
a really nice costume designing. It's very, very simple, but very, very. There's a reason it's so effective because it is so simple. And yet, there's that one scene where she's already gone to wearing a lot of black, but then there's the one scene where she goes back to wearing a lot of white, and it's when she's walking through the house at night with the candle.
Which, I mean, that shot has been used so many times. I can think of
It
at least
has.
a couple horror films now where you'll have the main character walking through with a candle in a white dress. Crimson Peak comes to mind.
Yeah, but I mean, it's probably the most horror focused scene.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of those sound effects and sound design coming in that are just like, whether it's laughing or
Creepy laughing.
creaks or
This old
whatever
house
it is.
creaks. I can see wherever you are.
That's a good quote. That's a nice. This old house. I knew you were coming. This old house creaks. Oh, it creaks, does it, Miles? Thanks for that. Thanks for creeping everyone out, you weirdo.
If Miles was in a Scottish school, he would get his ass kicked.
Yeah, that's not very nice. How cruel a Scottish. He has his own problems.
Yeah, and Scottish kids would just...
Scottish kids don't care about
They do
other
not,
people's
no.
problems. Scottish kids are the least empathetic people on the planet. That's what Nolan's teaching us today.
More or less, yeah. You know the part that really frightened me the most?
What?
When she's wandering through it,
Yeah.
and you see the uncle's face in the glass. And it
The
just-
valet's face.
The valet's face, yeah.
The uncle was who sent her originally.
Yeah, the valet is just like...
Peter Quint.
It lingers on his face so long.
Yeah, and it does that a couple of times.
And it just looks unsettling as hell. It's just a regular guy's face, but
It's kind of a creepy face, though.
it's just the lighting that I think
The
made it
lighting
really
is
work.
also very, very good. As you would expect in a beautifully shot, starkly black and white, atmospheric horror movie from the early 60s, the lighting is going to be pretty great.
Oh yeah.
There's full of shadows.
I'm actually curious, and I'm going to look on eBay right now if this movie is available on Blu-ray because I kind of want to order it
Yeah.
and force my brother to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a good thing. Force people to watch horror movies who don't want to watch them.
Well, yeah. I'll just get my brother out of his face, and he'll do that.
Unless they talk throughout the film.
Oh no, those are the worst.
In which case, don't go anywhere near those people.
Yeah.
Unless you are, of course, doing some sort of commentary track. In which
is
case,
always fun.
talk all the way through the film.
Ooh, The Innocence is on Blu-ray.
Of course
here,
it
and
is.
It is £8.
That's not bad.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's
steal.
pretty good for a Blu-ray, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's cheaper than anywhere you'll buy it out.
Yeah, you will not go to HMV and find this. I actually highly doubt HMV would even stock this.
I don't know. A big HMV in Manchester has a big horror section.
Well, I know the one in Braehead where I live. Definitely would not stock this.
So it might, and we can have a look. But what was I talking about?
I'm talking about the lighting and the
I was talking about the
staging
lighting.
and Even the
I mean-
the garden. It looks almost like, you know, those scenes where you walk through somewhere and it's kind of just you're surrounded by nature and you're looking at the awe and the wonder of it like immediately.
Yeah.
When I see those scenes now, this is like ingrained in me now. I always imagine the ice dance music from Edward Scissorhands playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also like how those, you know, obviously in the garden and by that lake,
Oh, that
and
will, I
by the
think.
boat, and everything just looks so peaceful. And then almost suddenly you are contrasted with that faraway shot of the spirit of Mrs. Jessel.
Because this is a thing that I always follow when I write. If you're gonna have a bright story
Yeah.
that you want like a sort of happiness to it, you need to make some stuff around it dark so the brightness comes up better. And same for the reverse. If you
Yeah.
want a dark story, you can't just wallow in the
No, and that
darkness and all that. You need a bit of light to bring it to life.
I think The Innocents does that exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's not a dark movie.
No, it's
It's
I wouldn't call it necessarily dark. It's creepy. It's eerie, but
I mean,
it's
it's
not cynical.
It's not even like a physically dark movie. It doesn't, you can see what's going on. It's brightly lit,
Yeah.
but it's just full of shadows, and the shadows have been used ever since film realized how to capture shadows to form creepy images, and it will never not work. You put a shadow in a horror movie, it will always unsettle you. It will never not be effective. I love it when stuff does it so well.
I used to hear that shadows, why they're so scary is it's kind of like the darkness of someone's soul following them.
The darkness of someone's soul following them.
Yeah, and it's always there, even when you're in light. Especially, you have to be in light to see a shadow.
You have to be in light to see the darkness within.
More
Is
or
that what
less,
you're
yeah.
saying? And
We are getting so philosophical.
you
on
have to
this.
be in light to see the darkness within. I think that's a good quote to use as well for this movie, because it's such a brightly lit movie, yet there is a lot of darkness within everyone in this movie.
I did hope that they weren't going to use jump scares, and they used a little one. It was some.
They did,
some
actually,
statue
didn't
thing
they?
that
Yeah.
It looked like a demon.
They did, but I think if you're using one,
One's fine.
one's fine, and yeah, okay, it was in that big horror scene, and it was the relief moment.
Yeah.
In that, it was just, oh god, this is really intense. Scream, and it's just like, yeah, okay,
Release all that tension.
release all that tension, and we'll go back to keeping you mildly tense for the rest of the movie, right up until that final scene, or with Miles and
I know Miles is meant to be the sympathetic one, but I really just felt so bad for Flora.
Flora. Yeah, Flora's kind of more tragic because Flora just is forced to go away because she can't deal with it.
Yeah.
She can't even think about dealing with it. She just becomes completely hysterical, and she leaves the house.
And like
Miles, to his credit, doesn't leave the house. Yes, he ends up losing his life because his life is so connected to Peter Quint, the spirit of Peter Quint. But at the end, Miles, you see Miles has overcome his connection to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay, it's caused the loss of his life, but he has died in a sense of calmness and a sense of contentment. Whereas Flora clearly just keeps carrying on her life with this right in the back of her mind. And that's worse. Is that worse?
Well, she's making up stuff to kind of deal with it, I think.
Yeah.
That reminds me of something Tracy Beaker does, which...
That's a fair point. I like that.
Where it's like, Tracy... If you know the story of Tracy Beaker, she pretends that her mother, who left her as a kid and actually treated her very poorly and was like neglected and stuff, she pretends that she's a big Hollywood star. And when she gets out of here, she's going to have this great life. And there are little moments in there where you see that Tracy's doing that just to kind of deal with her own pain.
Oh, definitely she is.
And it's really tragic. And I felt the kind of same thing with Flora, because she makes up a lot of stuff and she cries out a lot for attention.
Yeah. As Miles likes to point out.
Miles points out, and she really just wants someone to like love her, really. And
she does. And Deborah Kerr's character, Mrs. Gillis, I'm going to say Gillis, it's probably not right. She definitely comes across as a loving figure.
Yes,
you can't. Yeah, very, very maternal, especially, obviously, very maternal to Flora, but almost this weird object of desire for Miles.
And I like seeing that you can have a maternal female character and still have them be a strong character.
Oh, it's incredible. She's a great character.
There's a
She's
lot
such
of
a
people online who say like, "Oh well, maternity is overrated. Let's make all of our female characters tough and they hate everything." And it's like,
there's no
I
point.
hate that stuff. There are great maternal instincts that you can write in female characters, and you can still make them strong.
That's the point. Nobody will ever be against. It annoys me because a woman does not have to be a man, a masculine figure to be a true strong woman.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get what people think in that. I like what you said there because this is a very, very completely three-dimensional character, completely strong character, complex, very, very well written, real, true-to-life human character.
Yeah. None of these films.
Yet she isn't a strong person.
She's strong in the sense that she doesn't really care about her own pain. She wants to help the kids.
She does, but like she's damaged, you know.
That's kind of like, to me, like a mother bear. Like a mother bear
yeah.
will put themselves in danger if it means protecting their cubs.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know these kids, and she cares for them that much. That is, caring can be a strong character point.
Yeah.
It's something I like to write. I'm not really interested in writing those characters who are basically tough macho guys in female bodies.
No.
I can't stand them.
It does work, but it works when they are well written.
Yeah.
If you don't have them well written, it comes off as, oh
obnoxious.
God, just awful. Like you are trying, but you just don't get it, do you?
No.
That's what it comes off as.
And luckily, this one pulls it off very well. And the little details in this just stick out to me the most. Like
Tiny little quotes, like
Miles having a full-on boat, and then Flora saying she's got a boat as well, and it's this little like model.
yeah.
It's almost like she's using her imagination to make it seem as if she's as cool as she thinks her brother is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to look at it as very gender roles.
I mean,
in a type of way.
This is a classic film, so that's going to come up.
It does have, it does have that, like, the women are very much women, and the men are, there's no fluidity. Which, I'm kind of a big fan of
and I kind
showing
of,
fluidity.
I love that there's no character in this that, like, straight up doesn't believe her. You can tell
No.
that
It doesn't mean it doesn't mean the film is any less worthwhile. It doesn't mean these characters are any less worthwhile.
Yeah.
It's just the fact of the matter is that they are separated into the more traditional gender roles. And of course, the story came out in, like I said, the late 1890s. It's going to be like that.
I'm definitely going to try and find this book somewhere. Maybe it's in that Gothic library.
I own it. I own it.
You
I own it. You can read it while you're here.
Fantastic.
I've never read it myself, sadly, but I own it. But yeah, I love that because I love that the characters are just so well written. It doesn't matter what they are.
Yep.
And when some movies can too focus on what the characters are as opposed to actually just writing something well or creating a character that a audience will see as a human being and not just, oh, they're a thing on screen.
Yeah, but that's the worst thing.
It's so much better, and it makes for so much more of an effective film. And that is, of course, just one very small element of The Innocents, because you have those characters. They are performed so well. They are shot so well. They are lighted so well. Everything comes together in The Innocents to just work perfectly. I feel like, because this is both of our first time even watching The Innocents. We only finished watching it like an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, I could see this working as a stage play, actually.
I would think the Turn of the Screw has probably been on stage.
Is this a full-on... Is the Turn of the Screw a ghost story?
Turn of the Screw is a ghost story.
Alright, because I assumed this was something like they took the source material and maybe added the ghost story element to
No. Turn of the Screw is very much ghost story.
Okay.
It's in a book that I own called Ghost Stories of Henry James.
Which, Turn of the Screw, thinking about that title, doesn't really hit me as much as The Innocents does, because that more focuses on the coming-of-age angle.
I mean, like I said, I haven't read the book, so I can't compare.
It might be different, yeah.
It might have a slight bit of difference. The book might be more to do with the scenario.
Yeah,
whereas
since we're not on an episode of Lost in Adaptation,
no.
We're not.
Whereas this movie is it is very focused on the children, the innocents, and their losing their innocence, or at least the film sort of tells them to lose their innocence in order to free themselves.
Yeah.
Miles ends up dead. Flora doesn't, ends up having to go away and live her life knowing this in the back of her mind. Which is better? That's my question to you.
I don't know.
Is it better to die content or live not content? What a madness question for the innocents to pose that is. There's no answer.
I imagine Flora would grow up to be just like Deborah Kerr's character.
Possibly so. All any human being can do in real life is just... I always like the quote, I always like Gandalf quote, which is just we have to do what's best with the time that is given to us. You can't think... If you think too much about certain things, then you'll waste. You'll waste. And there's no point in wasting.
Yeah, I can give that an example. I thought so hard about coming down to Manchester and I never ended up doing it. Now I'm finally doing it and it feels a lot better.
Exactly. See? Do things, people. The Innocents tells you to do things. You're probably not going to end up dead like Niles because you don't have a spirit haunting you. This is, of course, an extreme version of that idea, but I think it's just a wonderful question that the film brings up.
Great execution of this kind of premise. Like, I've seen ghost stories a lot. A lot of them kind of just stick to the basics, but this adding that coming of age angle, it just sets it apart.
It really does.
Does it really well.
It does it so well.
There's been some movies on this show where the pacing has kind of like put me off a little bit.
I know you didn't like Witchfinder General.
I know.
I know that.
But I love it when we get to do an episode of the show and we both kind of just love the movie.
And and it's like...
I'd want to rewatch it is the thing.
Affected by the movie as well. Because I'm still thinking of that question, and I'm still thinking of, like... Just... Because it brings up that, and it's a really, really just... It's one of those impossible philosophical questions that people will debate for the rest of time. Is it better to die happy or live not happy?
See, you just boiled it down to one sentence there.
That's the question. Is it better to die happy or live not... Is it better to die now happy or live not happy?
Well, I'm not going to be happy if I die now because I don't
exactly.
Halloween.
There's just so much... You don't want to miss... No, that's true. See? There's always something that's keeping you alive.
Yep.
It's a very, very intense question. It's a question that's more for philosophy professionals and not for two people who run a silly podcast about movies.
If there are any philosophy majors...
Philosophy.
I don't know. I just
philosophy, he's just said.
Any Fuck. What is going
Try it
on?
again. Try it again. Try it again.
Philosophy.
There you go.
Philosophy majors. Please comment below with your answers to that. Raoul...
I want you to...
If you have been studying philosophy...
How philosophical are you, Raoul, truth?
I know you probably kill time while you're driving people around. Maybe you have an audiobook about philosophy. If not, maybe you should get an audiobook about philosophy. I would actually do that if I had it.
Look, philosophy is a fascinating area. It just takes a lot for me to think about.
Yeah.
It's just like this is one question, and like philosophy professionals, what's the meaning of life? It's like, great, I'm not into this discussion right now, I'm sorry, I don't have the brain power right now, or the energy, but who knows. Yeah, if there's anybody who has a better grasp on philosophy and this question that the Innocents proposes to us.
If there is anybody out there smart at this,
Please, which there are plenty of people.
just outside now, probably.
You go onto Twitter, tag us in it at It's a Wonderful One. Use the hashtag It's a Wonderful One, both with the number 1 at the end. And yeah, talk to us about this question. Talk to us about this movie. We love discussing weird things like this, and this is a great movie to discuss. Much more so than some others that we just end up liking watching sometimes.
And then we're like,
and it's just like,
see that again.
Yeah, there's not a great... Sometimes with this show, there's not a great deal to say about the movies, because most of the time, we pick movies that we don't know. That's the whole premise of this show, is to discover some new movies that we haven't seen that are older, and for anybody listening to join us on this journey.
And we've done it for 25 movies so far.
We have done it for 25 movies so far.
I'm going to say 24 because I don't think Peter Pan's a movie. It's an abomination.
No, it technically is still a movie. We have done it. But, for example, okay, the Peter Pan episode was kind of fun because we both just didn't like it.
We both just roasted the fuck out of it.
But sometimes there are movies on this where we end up not having so much to say. It might end up being a slightly shorter episode.
But with this one, we have a lot to say.
But with this one, there is just so much to say about it. And I mean, we've barely even talked about Mrs. Gross, but I don't know what happened about in Mrs. Gross's past life.
She's I think she's kind of a mirror of what Deborah Kerr could have been if she hadn't said anything.
Yeah, I think. Do you just see her as another maternal figure to the children, but one who goes along with the children's way of keeping everything calm or keeping everything inside?
Yeah.
Rather than Deborah Kerr's like, no.
Yeah.
You need to get this out. That
doesn't make her any less strong of a character.
Not at all.
She's worried that she'll terrify the kids and scar them for life. So she's got that kind of maternity about her as well. She just goes about it in a different way.
Yeah, there is quite a few times in the movie where the phrase "when you're older" is brought up as well. So it's just like, well, what's this arbitrary age? Is it 18? Is it 21, 16? How old is old enough for you to bring this up in conversation, Mrs. Gross? I don't think she could answer that.
There's the kind of tragedy of it, because she just takes Flora away.
She takes Flora away. Obviously, we don't know what happens to Flora.
Maybe in the Innocence 2 Electric Boogaloo, they will show It's just a story
please
of Flora and Mrs. Gross in wherever they are in London. Hogwarts.
They're with her uncle. They went to her uncle.
The uncle is such a non-existent character.
He shows up at the start to send Deborah Kerr to the house, and then does not exist.
Literally, the only thing I remember about him is he said, "Oh, I'm a bachelor." Of course you are.
Are you the uncle? Okay. You're not going to be a bachelor for long.
No.
With a housekeeper and your and your niece. You're not going to be a bachelor for long, the uncle. That's what he's known as well, the uncle.
I wonder if this movie actually inspired stuff like The Sixth Sense.
I imagine the original story inspired so many ghost stories, because it's kind of one of the most well-regarded ghost stories ever written. The Turn of the Screw.
So is this something that you would read for maybe an extended thing of when you record audio stuff?
Or when I used to do audio, in that sort of period when I did those audio readings of certain stories, this was definitely on the list to do. It would be a longer time because it's more of a short novella.
Yeah.
Rather than a 10-page story.
I'll give some advice to anybody who wants to watch this movie. Do it in a dark room. And find a friend who vapes, because he can add some really cool mist effects to the whole room. You could
do that. It actually helped.
Yeah. And
it helped build the atmosphere.
If you can get sherbet lemon flavour, all the better.
And also watch it when there's a lot of wind going on outside.
Oh, yeah.
Or potentially in the midst of a storm.
Yeah, if you have all those specific details, you'll have the perfect
The
innocence experience.
perfect innocence experience.
Don't have someone interrupt you by ringing the doorbell saying your pizza's arrived. Could you imagine?
Now, order the pizza before.
Yeah.
Order the pizza before you watch Innocence, but then you probably won't eat the pizza because you'll be too focused on the wonderful movie that's going on in front of you.
Yeah, that pizza's gonna go cold.
It's so... Yeah, it is. It's such a great movie, this one. I'm so glad that this is our first of the little bit of Halloween horror segment we're doing.
To this month all year.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great to do more of them as well.
Definitely. I mean, on our list we got a Price thing coming up.
We've got a Price movie coming up.
Because of
course we've got a Price movie coming up, and we've got some very old movies coming up as well.
Very, very
old. Couple of very old.
The ones that I think Raoul was at opening weekend for.
Oh no. Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be fun to do these over the next, before Halloween. Maybe the last one will be released on Halloween Day, just to be nice to everyone. While we are beginning to wrap up this conversation on The Innocents 2, I will apologise again for the lost episode of A Star Is Born.
But now we've passed that milestone too, because every show has lost episodes. I'm still trying to find the Doctor Who lost episodes.
Yeah, I mean, we now have a lost... If you didn't see on the It's a Wonderful One Twitter, we now do have a lost episode in A Star Is Born, which sadly we couldn't get out, but we are past that now. This is episode 25... talking about The Innocents.
You know why I think that episode was lost?
Why?
Because I'm going to say it again so people know. Because Brandon Hannah kidnapped me.
Because Brandon Hannah
did not want that information getting out, you motherfucker.
Blame Brandon. In fact, damn it, Brandon.
That's what you get when you impersonate me.
There's a new hashtag for all It's a Wonderful Podcast listeners. Hashtag damn it, Brandon. In fact, tag at Brandon Hannah 0707 at Brandon Hannah 07.
His address 122.
No, I don't. And just with the hashtag damn it, Brandon, and the hashtag It's a Wonderful One. He'll know what he's done. That'll be funny.
Well, it's kind of cool that your last episode technically was with Brandon. That was also a horror thing. So we've got full on horror.
That is true, actually. I mean, I suppose this was an episode that was planned for more Halloween focused episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess the Wolfman can be put into that as well. That was a great episode. It was a really fun episode to record. Obviously, you were trapped in his basement.
Yes.
But
which was a lot smaller than this room.
But it was a fun episode. I'm glad that we're doing this. Have you got anything else to say about this wonderful movie?
Just see it. That's all I can say.
Just see it. I mean, it's
incredible.
It's a really good movie.
There's very few movies which I can say are perfect executions of their ideas, and this is one of them.
It's a really simple story as well. You never have to think too much, but like I said, it brings up these questions and it brings up these themes that will stick around with you. I won't be able to get them out of my head until I watch the next movie.
On eBay now. Which we're bringing this up again. eBay Blu-rays.
eBay Blu-rays, ladies and gentlemen,
are usually very cheap and very affordable. You should get them. Yeah, stop going to HMV, especially if you're going to buy Disney movies. Don't do that.
Unless you're in America where they don't have HMV.
Does Canada not have an HMV?
Unless you're outside the UK, in which case won't have a HMV.
I don't know what the equivalent of HMV is in America.
I think you just get your Blu-rays from... You can seemingly get Blu-rays from literally anywhere in the US.
Aye, Brandon's basement.
Brandon's basement. I mean, HMV technically is a music shop.
Yeah.
So
they have never sold a CD. It's like all those sports stores in Scotland that have sold 1,000 baseball bats, but have never sold a baseball.
And there, ladies and gentlemen, good listeners, of It's a Wonderful Podcast is today's lesson on the brutality of Scotland.
That's why I had to escape. If I hadn't come down to
even
Manchester,
just for a
I would
week.
have been stuck in my flat. My stuff got
hiding
stolen.
hiding
so I
in
was
hiding in the flat for fear of baseball bat wielding thugs.
I mean, I do live in Renfrew. So it's a regular Saturday for me. I walked down to the chippy and they were like, "All right, Dave."
What's worse, living like that or living like in this movie?
I'd hang out with Flora and Miles any day.
Hang out with Flora and Miles any day. Guys, thank you so much again for listening to another episode of this silly, ridiculous show. We are very, very much Halloween horror focused right now. The Innocents is a fantastic ghost story. I love the fact that we got to do a pure ghost story.
It's a great one to kick off with.
Well, technically we didn't kick off with it. If you want to include Brandon's Wolfman episode.
I mean, the Wolfman is also a pretty good one to kick it off.
It is. But yeah, I love this movie. Nolan, I think it's safe to say.
I do love this movie as well.
I love this movie. Well worth anyone's time. One of those, if you don't like black and white movies, who cares? Watch it. So as far as I'm gonna go on that.
Unless you're like really unfortunately colorblind and can't say black or white. Oh wait, can you even do that if you're colorblind? Black and white aren't.
Look, I don't know. I don't know.
Of colors. I do not know the science of color psychology. Maybe Raoul does.
Brandon will.
Brandon definitely will.
Brandon will know the psychology of, or the science behind the eyes, probably. Even though he likes physics, and the eyes have nothing to do with physics.
Definitely.
Anyway, Nolan, apart from being here, have you been up to anything? Is anything going on?
Things are going on. It is. DV Pit is coming up again.
Okay.
So I've had a couple tweets saved. They're scheduled to go out on the 16th. I'm pitching Moonflower again, even though I'm rewriting it.
Yeah.
Just see if I can get some more attention. If you see any of those, don't like them. That's for agents. You're gonna confuse me if I get likes on them. Retweet them by all means. Do not like them. I know the rules of DV Pit are weird, but it's just how it is.
Okay.
And I don't know. While I'm here, I mean, we're definitely gonna go see Halloween next week.
We are gonna go and see Halloween next week.
I've been considering maybe one day this week we go out and see Bad Times at the El Royale. I don't know. I'm sure we'll do some fun stuff. Yeah, definitely. And
we'll be doing some fun stuff while you're here.
Yesterday, I mean, we just went through the town and.
Only for a little bit.
Only for a little bit, and you were surprised at how much I was kind of loving it.
I mean, look, Manchester's a nice place. I would encourage anybody to come to Manchester. Be prepared for potentially some iffy weather.
Oh yeah, and it's better than Glasgow.
It's better than Glasgow. Manchester, better than Glasgow. There's your slogan.
That's the brochure.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, if Nolan's not doing anything else, he just wants to say that this is going to be a fun week that we're going to have here.
I mean, we've already gone through the horrible voice acting of the Harry Potter games.
We have done that, which have been very fun. It's great. I love it. Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at the Purple Dom with a 3 instead of the E in there, because 3 is the magic number. 3's the magic number.
You knew I was going to go for the other one, didn't
you? I knew you were going to go for the other one. I've changed my catchphrase. 3's the magic number. Or just at the Purple Dom straight on Instagram. Just check out the show. Download the show on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and Spotify and PodBean and wherever else you may find the show.
Insert podcast thing.
Because it's on all of those things. And subscribe to the feed and leave those ratings. Leave those high ratings. A nice 5-star rating for It's a Wonderful Podcast would be greatly appreciated by anybody that does download and listen to the show. And download as well. Please download. Download, subscribe. I know I'm telling you to do everything, but we have a show to run. And
I mean, the stockholders are getting mad.
we have a show to run, and sometimes, it's a bit of housekeeping is required.
We can reveal this now. Our only stockholder is Shrek.
Yes, he is.
And he demands high ratings.
He needs to buy eyeballs in quite frequently, and he gets mad with us if we don't provide that. But yes, guys, please do all that on those audio feeds, and like I said, tweet out at us at It's a Wonderful One on Twitter, at the Purple Dome with the 3 on Twitter, at NolanDean27.
You remembered my Twitter hashtag
on Twitter.
And you can also find me on YouTube at Nolan Dean.
Yes, you can.
You can read my latest Stories as Lessons blog post, because in school they just said, hey, you do YouTube videos, turn them into a blog. So I did one about the original Halloween, which will be coming out as a Stories as Lessons video sometime in the near future. Hopefully before Halloween.
Wonderful.
And
Halloween is next week.
Yes, and because I forced you into this.
You have forced... What have you forced me into?
Well, hopefully on my own channel, we will be doing a little Halloween spoiler talk.
Well, of course we can do that. Yes. Look out for that, everyone. Look out for the good listeners of It's a Wonderful Podcast. Please look out for that as well. Guys, as always, thank you very much for listening to episode 25. 25 episodes of It's a Wonderful Podcast. Nolan, see us out.
And if you want to hear any more of this, you can do all those things with the hashtags and look on all the podcast things. And until next time, guys, goodbye.
That was a bit creepy. Do you not just love Nolan's see us out things? I love them so much. Bye, guys.